Your first job seems simple enough. A woman named Clara has hired you to be her fiancé for her younger brother as engagement party. You're supposed to look presentable, act charming, and keep up appearances without slipping a thought too personal into conversation. You trace the folds of your suit jacket in the mirror, straightening the collar, wondering how many times someone else's life you've walked into without leaving a mark. When you arrive at Clara's apartment, the nervous energy is palpable. Her mother hovers near the door, a bundle of warmth and insistence. You exchange handshakes that feel like gentle tests, small smiles that feel both rehearsed and real, and you notice how carefully she tucks a stray strand of hair behind her ear. That simple motion tells you more about her than any explanation ever could. The car ride to the family gathering is quiet, but not uncomfortable. She hums a soft tune under her breath, a habit that makes you realize how often you've missed small human details in your other assignments. You wonder if she does this when she's alone, if anyone else hears it, if it's just a fragment of intimacy you'll never own. At the house, you're introduced to cousins, aunts, and neighbors whose eyes carry suspicion mixed with curiosity. You laugh at the right moments, nod in agreement when stories are told, and feel a subtle, almost imperceptible warmth when Clara brushes her hand against yours while reaching for a snack. You still wonder if it was a fleeting accident or a tiny invitation. By the time dinner is served, you've learned the rhythm of their lives in ways no outsider could. The clink of silverware, the smell of roasted vegetables, the quiet teasing between siblings, all of it blends into a canvas you feel allowed to touch, just enough to make your presence believable. Clara leans slightly toward you when someone tells a story, and you catch a glimpse of a smile that lingers longer than it should. It feels like a promise, though neither of you is ready to name it. You navigate jokes and questions as if walking a tightrope, aware that any misstep could shatter the illusion. Yet in these careful steps, you sense a rhythm forming, something delicate that doesn't belong to the assignment alone. After dessert, while the others drift into casual chatter, you both find a corner of the living room, just enough space to breathe. She laughs at something small, and you laugh too. Not because it's required, but because it feels genuine, strange as it is in a world built on pretend. You notice the way her fingers curl around her mug, how her gaze lingers on you longer than politeness dictates. For the first time in a long time, you allow yourself to think that maybe this assignment could be different. That maybe, just maybe, there's a spark that no rehearsal can hide. A soft thread tugging at the edges of your carefully constructed detachment. You still wonder if it's curiosity, comfort, or something dangerously close to affection, but you don't push the thought away. You let it float in the quiet space between you, unspoken yet understood. The night ends with goodbyes that feel heavier than expected. Clara hugs you tightly, not too tightly, just enough to linger in your memory as you walk to your car. You glance back to see her wave, her smile small but significant, and you feel the odd tug of responsibility and longing. You leave knowing you've fulfilled your role, yet something unquantifiable lingers, a sense of warmth and connection that the contract never promised. You drive home in the dark, the city lights blurring past, thinking about how a simple gesture, a shared laugh, a touch of the hand can unravel even the most carefully rehearsed intentions. Tonight, you realize, was more than an assignment. It was an invitation to notice, to feel, and perhaps to risk. The next assignment arrives like a familiar knock on your door, but this time there's a difference. You were already carrying the memory of Clara's warmth, the faint brush of her hand, the unspoken tension in those shared laughs. You meet your new client, Lila, at a small cafe downtown, sunlight spilling across the tables and catching the steam of her coffee. She's chatty, nervous, the kind of person who fidgets with her spoon, twisting it around her fingers when she's unsure what to say. You slip into your role easily, smiling just enough, leaning in at the right moments, and letting your gaze linger a fraction too long, the way you learned to do with Clara. It's all practice, rehearsal, a performance you've perfected, But the thing about acting close to someone is that your own heart sometimes forgets it as just a role. You laugh at Lila's jokes, the kind that tumble out awkwardly but carry sincerity, and notice how she scrunches her nose when something strikes her as funny. You've seen this many times, a minor detail others overlook. Yet it tells you she's human, alive, and perhaps a little lonely. You wonder how many people have looked at her like she's a checklist, and how many have actually noticed the subtle curl of her lips when she's truly amused. As the afternoon drifts into evening, the light in the cafe softens, the shadows stretching long across the floorboards, and you realize you're enjoying this more than you should. There's a warmth that seeps in, slow and quiet, as though the room itself is conspiring to make the pretense feel real. Your first date with Lila is a simple dinner at her family's apartment. The kitchen smells faintly of baked bread, a welcoming aroma that makes the role play easier to inhabit. You offer compliments at just the right moments, laugh at stories with a gentle ease, and notice her glance toward you when she thinks you aren't watching. There's a curious longing in her eyes, subtle but undeniable, and you feel an unfamiliar weight in your chest. You're supposed to be her fiancé for an evening, a charming accessory in a family tableau, yet something in your interaction slips past the boundaries of the script. You notice the way her hand brushes against your arm when she reaches for the salt, the way she tilts her head when listening to a story. It's all so human, so tactile, and it makes your rehearsed smiles feel inadequate. Later, in the quiet lull after dessert, she rests her hand on yours just long enough for it to register, a fleeting brush of warmth that leaves your fingers tingling. You laugh softly, surprised by your own reaction, and you catch yourself thinking of her when she's not in the room. You still wonder if it's genuine feeling or the echo of your imagination. The kind of question that makes you trace the edges of your emotions as carefully as you do the rules of your job. She shares small details about her life, her favorite park bench, the song she hums when no one is listening, and you realize the intimacy you were meant to fake is seeping into your awareness in real, unbidden ways. By the time you leave, the city is drenched in the golden light of dusk, and you find yourself lingering at the curb, reluctant to part ways. She waves, a smile that's both shy and earnest, and you feel the curious tug of something you can't name yet. It's not love, at least, not fully, but it's more than pretense. You drive home with her words echoing softly, small details of laughter and touch lodged in your mind. Each fake assignment carries you deeper into the realm of real emotion, blurring lines you thought you had mastered. In these moments, you understand that the pretense isn't just for your clients. It's for you too, a slow awakening to the human connections you've been skimming past for years. That night, lying in bed, you replay every glance, every accidental touch, every whispered joke, and feel the strange tension of awareness your heart, trained to stay distant, now notices, waits, and questions. You still wonder if it's curiosity, comfort, or the beginnings of something more. The air is still and quiet, except for the soft hum of the city outside, and you think of Clara's smile, Lila's laughter, and the odd thrill of being in someone else's life without fully belonging to it. And as sleep edges closer, you realize that each assignment is no longer just a task, it's a mirror, reflecting feelings you thought you locked away, showing that even in pretense you are capable of noticing longing and perhaps quietly falling. By the time your third assignment arrives, you've started noticing patterns in yourself you hadn't expected. You meet Sophie, a spirited client with quick hands that gesture when she talks, eyes that dart around as if looking for hidden stories in every room. She hires you to be her fiancé for her sister's engagement brunch, a more casual setting than previous gigs, but no less intimate. The moment she smiles at you, sunlight bouncing off the window pane and catching the gold in her hair, you feel that familiar tug in your chest, the one that whispers, maybe this isn't all pretend. Sophie is warm and talkative, leaning in to share little secrets about her family, a grandmother who hums while baking, a brother who tells terrible jokes but laughs at his own punchlines, a cat that insists on sitting on everyone's laps. You laugh, nod, and offer charm that feels automatic. Yet there's a subtle friction in your heart, a friction you recognize now. That slow shift when a role starts feeling like real life. During brunch, she reaches across the table to brush crumbs from your sleeve, an almost trivial gesture, but the tenderness in it strikes you. You catch yourself watching her fingers linger, noticing how she hesitates just long enough to let warmth exist between you. As the day stretches on, the line between pretend and reality begins to blur. Sophie finds excuses to text you afterward, casual little messages that aren't technically part of the job. A picture of her coffee cup in the morning, a quick good luck with your day, when she knows you're busy, a shared meme that makes you laugh more than it should. You still tell yourself it's just part of maintaining the act, but the way your chest tightens when you see her name on your phone is undeniably real. You notice her quirks, the way she tucks her hair behind her ear, the little hum she does when she's thinking, and each one becomes a soft echo in your mind, a rhythm you didn't plan to follow. One evening, you both end up walking in the park near her apartment, a thin autumn breeze rustling the leaves. She drifts a step closer than necessary when you stop to look at a fountain, and you feel the heat of her presence as if it's been waiting there for years. You joke about the fountain being romantic for hire, and she laughs, brushing her hand against yours without thinking, a touch that lingers in a way that leaves your thoughts spinning. For a moment, neither of you speaks, but you both sense that something has shifted, that this assignment has become more than a job. You're not just pretending anymore, you're noticing, longing, and quietly hoping. That night, when you lie in bed replaying the day, the text messages, the casual touches, the laughter, you start to understand a strange truth. You're beginning to care. Sophie's presence is no longer just a performance for her family's benefit. It has settled in your mind, weaving through your imagination in ways that feel unexpectedly tender. You remember Clara, Lila, and now Sophie, and you realize that your life as a professional stand-in is building a quiet, delicate network of real emotional footprints. You still wonder if you're rechasing the warmth of connection or if the connection is chasing you, slipping into the spaces between the roles you play. The night deepens, and with it comes the realization that sometimes pretending to love can teach you more about your own heart than any real romance ever could. It's during one of the longer assignments that everything tilts just slightly out of control, the line between pretense and feeling blurring in ways you hadn't anticipated. This time, you're with Emily, a client whose family is celebrating a milestone anniversary. You arrive dressed sharply, a faint scent of your favorite cologne lingering as you step into their sunlit living room. Her mother greets you warmly, her eyes bright with expectation, and you notice the subtle way Emily shifts when you're in the room, almost imperceptibly, but enough to make your chest tighten. She's looking for something real in this charade, and you realize, with a quiet jolt, that maybe you are too. Throughout the day, you walk the careful line between acting and noticing. You compliment her dress, laugh at her jokes, and offer gestures that feel natural yet rehearsed, but her presence makes it difficult to maintain detachment. Emily has a way of tilting her head when she's listening, a small curiosity in her expression that draws you in. At one point, she brushes a loose strand of hair from your forehead, not as a performance, but with a tenderness that lingers in your fingers long after she pulls away. You feel the familiar warmth rise in your chest, that subtle emotional echo that follows every minor gesture, and you wonder how much of this is assignment, how much is real. As the afternoon unfolds, the quiet moments become more pronounced. You both find yourselves in a sunlit corner of the backyard, laughing softly over stories you've both heard 100 times, and yet something feels different. There's an unspoken agreement that allows closeness without words, a gentle permission for the heart to notice without rushing. She rests her hand on yours briefly, then pulls back, leaving you with a tingle of awareness, a reminder that pretending can sometimes lead to feelings you weren't expecting to have. The air carries the scent of jasmine from the garden, and you notice the subtle rhythm of her breathing, the soft cadence that feels almost like a heartbeat you could follow forever. Then comes the confession, the one you've been circling around in small gestures and sidelong glances. She laughs nervously, biting her lip, and says something that is not meant to be serious but lands with quiet weight. I think I might be starting to like you. You freeze for a moment, the world narrowing to the tilt of her smile, the warmth in her eyes. The pretense you've maintained so carefully feels suddenly fragile, as if the smallest word could break it or make it entirely real. You respond gently, unsure of how much to reveal, but your voice carries a softness that wasn't in the script. There's a pause, a shared awareness, and in that silence, the truth sits quietly. This assignment has become personal, and neither of you can ignore it. By the evening, after the family has toasted and laughed and drifted into casual chatter, you both retreat to the living room, where the shadows stretch long across the hardwood floor. She leans back on the couch, a faint blush on her cheeks, and you notice how her gaze lingers longer than necessary. You sit near enough to feel her warmth, far enough to respect the delicate boundary of pretense. The conversation drifts, small details shared without intention of depth, yet every word carries significance. You realize that this mixture of confession, hesitation, and curiosity has created a space that feels safe, intimate, and entirely unscripted. You still wonder if this is love, comfort, or simply the thrill of the unusual, but you do not push the thought away. Instead, you let it rest, like a quiet ember in the middle of a busy world, knowing that it will guide the moments to come. The final assignment arrives with a strange sense of inevitability, as if the universe is giving you one last chance to navigate the delicate web of pretense and feeling you, then threading through months of carefully staged intimacy. This time, your client, Hannah, has invited you to a weekend family retreat at a lake house, a chance to be her fiancé not just for an evening, but for 2 full days. The morning air is crisp, carrying the scent of pine and water, and as you step out of the car, you notice how sunlight scatters across the lake, shimmering like fragments of gold. You feel a soft excitement, tempered with caution, knowing that these hours will be unlike any assignment you've taken before. From the moment you walk in, Hannah's family treats you like a fixture, a presence that belongs, and you move through the weekend blending charm and attentiveness. You help her carry groceries, laugh at her father's jokes, and lean into casual conversations with siblings and cousins, all while maintaining a delicate balance of pretense. Yet the small gestures, the brush of her hand when she adjusts a blanket, the warmth of her laughter, echoing across the water, the way she looks at you when she thinks no one is watching, begin to settle into your own rhythm. You feel an unfamiliar tug, a gentle insistence that this connection is real, not just part of a role. One evening, as the sun sets and paints the sky in soft oranges and purples, you find yourself sitting on the porch, the lake stretching still and quiet before you. Hannah hums a tune under her breath, a habit you've come to recognize and cherish, and you feel the weight of weeks spent in pretense lift, leaving only a raw, gentle awareness of her presence. You share small stories, laugh softly, and for the first time, your hand brushes hers intentionally. She doesn't pull away. Instead, she lets her fingers linger, creating a small circle of warmth that feels both fragile and infinite. You still wonder how much of this is comfort and how much is the spark you've been trying not to name, but for now, it doesn't matter. The weekend unfolds in a series of quiet, tender moments, walking along the lake's edge, sharing coffee in the early morning fog, trading soft glances across the dinner table. You notice every nuance, the ways she tilts her head when she's curious, how her eyes brighten when she laughs, the subtle brush of her shoulder against yours when passing through narrow spaces. Each gesture accumulates, layering familiarity and intimacy until it feels impossible to separate assignment from reality. By the time the retreat ends, you've both fallen into a rhythm of closeness that no contract could define, leaving you with a profound sense of connection that's both exhilarating and terrifying. Driving home, you think back to Clara, Lila, Sophie, Emily, and now Hannah each encounter a thread weaving its way into your understanding of yourself and the delicate art of noticing another person. The assignments were meant to be temporary, roles to inhabit, but they've left traces, impressions that linger like the faint scent of flowers in the air. You still wonder if this connection will last beyond pretense, if it's possible to carry something real from a world built on artifice, but the thought no longer frightens you. Instead, you feel a quiet hope, a sense that even in the unusual spaces of life, intimacy can grow, delicate and tender, if only you allow it. You remember the small gestures, the shared silences, the accidental touches, and you feel the warmth of it all settle in your chest. For the first time, the pretense feels like a gift, a guide to noticing the extraordinary and the ordinary, the human thread that ties one heart to another, quietly and without demand. Now, as you settle into the gentle quiet that follows a weekend of unusual intimacy, allow your mind to drift slowly, softly, like leaves carried by a gentle current. The world feels softer here, the sounds less urgent, the light fading with a comforting slowness. You recall the small, tender moments, hands brushing accidentally, laughter shared across a table, the warmth of presence that does not demand but simply exists. You can let these images float without pressure, as if each one is a note in a lullaby written just for you. Feel the calmness of evening seep into your body, starting at your shoulders, flowing down your arms, settling in your chest, and finally resting at your feet. Every breath you take carries a quiet reassurance, a reminder that even the most unusual connections can leave a gentle imprint on the heart. The faces you've met, the touches and glances, all become soft impressions, comforting like the memory of a familiar song or the scent of something cherished. Allow your thoughts to slow, your imagination to drift, and let a gentle sense of closure embrace you. The world outside can wait a little longer. Right now, there is only this soft, quiet space. Even as the memories fade, their warmth remains, a subtle glow in the corner of your mind. You are safe here, surrounded by calm, enveloped in the hush of an evening that is yours alone. Breathe slowly, deeply, letting the quiet carry you, and feel the gentle ease of every heartbeat, until all that is left is the soft, steady rhythm that invites sleep to come.